Welcome back. Welcome back, everyone, to Uninc Edu, our podcast for creators. Each episode focuses on a new skill that you can adopt while making your impact. We bring in mentors from all walks of life who will share their insights and guide you on your journey of unlearning. I'm your host, Ben Gibson. Join me on my mission to build a space for creators like you to find everything they need. My story begins in Andrews, a small town in West Texas, born from shame. I'm super thankful, as always, that you would be joining our tiny little podcast. So thank you for being here. Before every episode begins, I'm going to invite you to take a big breath with me before we relax into this session. So we can go ahead and do that. The big breath in and release. Coming back to center. Okay. Uninc Edu is all about skills. It's about exploring new skills that we can implement into our practice. It's about stepping into courage as you learn to focus on the next skill you want to develop with us. Our first few episodes with Uninc Edu have been about AI and ChatGPT. And today we have Craig Inzana joining us in a few minutes. If you'd like to jump forward in the episode directly to Craig, you can go ahead and skip forward about 10 minutes in, and you should jump right to the interview. But before I let Craig get here and introduce himself, because I hardly do any of the mentors justice when I introduce them, but personally, I wanted to introduce Craig as a dear friend and a collaborator of mine over the years. We met in Austin when I was building a filmmaker space. It was a co-creating space for filmmakers where we had gear and editing equipment. And he was one of the filmmakers who came to meet us. And since then, we've followed each other on our journeys. I've been on a couple of his podcasts, and I'm honored to have him here today because I think as the soul of an artist. I think he is super talented in that he has the soul of an artist, or he's very creative and artistic, and also practical, and he can strategize and implement new businesses and marketing endeavors. So that's where he's at today. I know now he's a chief marketing officer with a company, and he'll tell you more about that now. And that's a little bit about what we're going to get into today, is how he's using ChatGPT in his work, and specifically around content. I know he was excited about sharing a little bit about his process on creating blogs. So we're going to talk a little bit about that. And as far as my own personal experience in creating content with ChatGPT, it has been awesome. It's been really helpful, even on the upfront planning end of things, on what kind of content should I release. Coming up with ideas for content has been helpful. And then coming also getting into the copywriting. Sorry, Siri's interrupting me. But so yes, I've been using it to create. Sometimes I'll use it for at the beginning of a post. You can create little blurbs on a topic for your posts. You can also help you craft stories to tell, which is very, very cool. It can help you tell a cohesive story if that's what you're trying to do with your work. But on the AI front, I think it's a very interesting time. It's moving so quickly, and I'm trying to keep up with the tools and the updates that are coming out. And every week I get online and there are new tools, and there are tools trumping other tools, better tools than the ones I had previously subscribed to. So they're coming out at a really fast pace. And I'm excited that we can start to bring perspective around how AI can be utilized as a tool, as Xavier was telling us on our previous podcast. Xavier Alvarado was telling us that it is a tool for us to create with. And there are going to be so many tools coming out. But before Craig gets here, I guess I can share a little bit more. There's a new tool uh, that I heard about for therapy, and it goes by the name of Pi, PI. And if uh, just so you know, I say this little intro in the beginning about shame. Um, it's a deeply personal struggle that I have had for many years in my life, overcoming and understanding of what that part of me is. And I'm still learning, and I'm still trying to grow into it and to learn it and accept it more and more. Um, my background in identifying with the LGBTQ community, I'm sure, is a part of it. Um, my history as a veteran, I know there's some threads there around it. And in short, I was experiencing, a spell, as I call it sometimes, a spell of shame this morning, and very used to this feeling of shame. Oh, hello again. Hi, welcome back. I understand that you're part of my life, and I turned to this new AI app called Pi, and asked it for help. And I basically just started confessing my confusion, and I explained to it how I was feeling and how I didn't quite understand why I was feeling this way. And it told me about this technique called tapping, where you put your body on your hand, you put your hand on your body, and you use this tapping technique. And I started to do it where I felt the emotion of shame in my body. And it was definitely a release, to say the least. It was I just began to cry, like therapy sessions you can do sometimes, I guess. And afterwards, it prompted me to breathe and to come back to center and relax. It was pretty profound that an AI tool could guide me to do that with something that I experience so regularly. Um, so I tweeted about it this morning, but for anybody out there who might be experiencing emotional discomfort, it might be worth a shot, especially if therapy might feel out of reach, if you might feel resistance to approaching a therapist, or if the costs might be prohibitive for therapy, might be worth trying. But we're not talking about therapy today. We're talking about content creation, specifically with ChatGPT, with Craig Inzana, and he should be dropping in here any moment now. But if you have any requests for episodes, or if you have any feedback for us, uh, I would love to hear from you. I would love if you want to email me, or if you want to drop any comments, feel free to do so. Um, I'd love to hear from you. So In other news, I'm still in Mexico. Personal news, I guess. I'm still in Mexico here. I am going to be spending a few months here in Puerto Vallarta as I'm transitioning. And it's been a very cool time here. It's been a good place to reconvene and re-strategize. But Craig is here now, and I'm going to let him in, and we're going to get started.
Hello.
Hi, Craig.
How are you doing?
I'm doing okay. I was just rambling on. How are you?
I'm great. I'm happy to join you.
Yeah, I was just giving them an introduction, a personal introduction.
But I would love if you would like to introduce yourself with a little bit about your background and what you're passionate about.
Yeah, sure. Sounds good. I am Craig Heron. I used to be Craig Inzana, so if you find me on the internet, I might be under Craig Inzana. Recently got married, and both of us changed our name, which was a fun experience. And I thank you. Yeah, I'm a marketing expert. I've been doing marketing for over 15 years, and also a content creator. I went to school for filmmaking, made movies, learned kind of the business side of things through that process, and have always been the kind of weird person that dabbles in both the creative side and also the really analytic side. So I love a spreadsheet just as much as I love a paintbrush, which has just created this really interesting journey for me over the last 15 years of working in all for big YouTube channels with millions, helping them optimize their videos and video editing and SEO, to like small businesses, electricians, financial advisors, like the whole. And now I work at a tech startup where we help event promoters, so like the Dallas Mavericks and Wiz Khalifa and all kinds of really cool musicians and entertainers promote their live show. To do a bunch of really cool stuff.
That's exactly, that was a little bit of what I was sharing, is how you're so unique in that you have a background of an artist and you're really great at marketing and analytics and the things that are more challenging for most creatives.
Yeah. I mean, I think it's an extension of like, I also used to paint. I painted professionally for 6 months, and then had a mental breakdown over it because the pressure was too much. People were paying me thousands of dollars for commission pieces, and I was like, what if I don't do it right? Analytics are a little nicer because it's like a little tidier. It's like, oh, okay, like there's a right or a wrong answer. With like a painting, it's like the freedom of it is that like there is not a right or wrong answer, but that also can cause a bunch of anxiety.
Yeah. And we just had a painter. I just recorded an episode with Xavier Alvarado yesterday, who is a painter. So it's funny you mentioned that. How have you been since you mentored with us last? I know it was last fall we had you, or it's been about a year since we had you on Uninc to mentor. But any other updates or anything else you'd like
Yeah, it
to
was a
share?
while. It was before I was working in tech startups, so that's been a new journey for me. Has been, I think I might have been working at a startup studio, but now working actually at a startup. And we went to TechStars. We got an investment from the Minnesota Twins professional baseball team. If you don't follow baseball, I didn't, so I was like, I think that's a baseball team. But it was really cool. We got to go work next to them in a building right by their offices, and got to be mentored by them. And they made a bunch of connections to industry professionals all over the industry, which is what TechStars specializes in. And I mean, it was a 4-month program, but it felt like 4 years of connections and education. Yeah, so lots of stuff has changed. Lots of just working my butt off. So
I bet working for a startup, besides the Uninc work that we've done, I've never got to work out inside of another one. So I bet that's a very cool, good experience. But I guess we can go ahead and jump into um, the topic for today. But high level, how are you feeling about all this AI buzz and everything that's going on right now? This revolution that we're undergoing.
Yeah, I mean, I'm excited about it. I've been it's been a little bit on my radar for a long time. So it's cool to see it actually get to a point where it's usable. And seeing, in the tech space, like how many people are actually like implementing it. I think there was a really interesting like movement around like the NFT and the blockchain stuff in like Web3. But I really feel like this is the like Web3 is like AI integrated web, because it makes it more personalized, it makes it more specific. There's a bunch of kind of downstream effects of like what an internet where everything is embedded with AI looks like, which like I can get into a little bit more, but I think that there's a lot of really interesting dynamics at play there. I also think it's not quite as far along as people think it might be if they read the headlines, because the headlines really like to blow things a little bit out of proportion. And I think people kind of dream up all of these like, well, it could do this and it could do this and it could do this. And I think those are true. I've seen technology take that route over my lifetime of like people dream stuff up and then they make it happen, but it often takes way longer than I think the most optimistic of us think it will. And it's usually not as catastrophic and world ending as the most pessimistic of us think it will be.
Right. Yeah. Right. And that is interesting to think about what the internet will look like with everything having AI integrated into it. And on the topic of creators and how AI will maybe impact the lives of them in the years to come, what thoughts or projections do you have there?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's interesting because everyone thought that like robots and automation would replace like labor workers first, like electricians and servers and stuff like that. And it seems kind of the opposite, that those might be the last workers to get replaced by robots. And I think that it's a little bit of like overblown rhetoric to say that artists are going to get replaced by AI or anything, but it definitely is a significant, even as a writer myself, like I get paid to write content. Um, it it does make me think like, okay, well, if just writing an article just for the sake of writing an article isn't good enough anymore, because an AI can do that honestly better than I can. Um, if I just spit something out, like an AI can do it better than me. If I take some time and like really like work on it, then I can still outcompete an AI for now. But the real skill then becomes like, how do I use AI in my work to make myself more effective and productive, but also like use it as another tool. When Photoshop came out, people were like, oh, that's not real photo editing, that's not real like graphic design with Illustrator and stuff, because of these tools. You're not literally cutting out paper and like putting it on things or whatever. Like it's just another iteration of like the artist of the future will have all of these things in your toolbox, and by learning how to use them as mediums of expression, I think that's where the opportunity is. And also it's kind of a fun playground to work within, if you think of it that way.
And yeah. And in your work, I know you're doing a lot of marketing work. Can you tell us a little bit about how you've been embracing it in your own work?
Yeah, so I mean, I've been experimenting with everything that comes out just to kind of stay on top of it. But the use cases that I'm actually applying day to day in my job, which like will probably in a month, there will probably be more use cases that I'll be using it for. But right now, I'm using it actively every single day, using the ChatGTP to help with research, help with brainstorming. If I like come up with copy, I can have it come up with 10 different variations of copy. I think I have it literally assisting me in writing articles, like very large SEO content. And it's writing the really simple articles basically on its own, that I would normally, to be honest, pay a writer for, but it gets me it back in minutes instead of days, and it's free or like a couple cents per article for the API versus a couple $100 and waiting days. And honestly, it's better. So there's some things there of like those writers are going to have to figure out how to either use AI in their job, or they're going to have to become editors, because the editing's still important, and like looking over and citing sources and things like that. That's still work that a human has to do, because ChatGPT will just make stuff up.
Yeah.
And then using a little bit of the AI, like Midjourney and Dolly. Midjourney is much better in my experience for AI image generation. Haven't gotten, I kind of put a pause on, I don't use as much design work in my job anymore. So it's not something I'm using in my day-to-day. But ChatGPT and then like all of the other tools that help make ChatGPT better are the things that I'm using every day.
And in our skill that we're going to be jumping into today, high level, what can you tell us a little bit about what you were thinking to share with us?
Yeah, so I was going to use an example of one of the like blog posts that I wrote that normally would take me a month to write, and it took me 8 hours to get it done in one day. Yes, I'll just show the most recent one that I did yesterday, and then kind of walk through how I used ChatGPT through that whole process. It's not an article. I can show also an article that ChatGPT just wrote, but I think it'll be interesting more to show like for the articles that still the writing that still needs done by a human, like how can ChatGPT still be an assistant to that and help with the brainstorming and like coming up with titles and outlines and keywords and that sort of stuff. And then also like actually writing rough drafts of paragraphs, and then also refining things and you know, the use case of making me less wordy and checking my grammar and readability and stuff like that.
I guess if we haven't started creating blogs for our own brand, I mean, it might be a good, maybe a rundown of why or how would we use blogs for a brand?
Yeah, that's a good point. SEO is search engine optimization. So that's for Google and Bing. How do you get your web page to show up when people are searching for stuff? And for a long time, HubSpot kind of pioneered this idea of inbound marketing, where instead of going out and trying to like hit people where they are, it's like if they're searching for something, bring them to you by answering their questions about things or teaching them things. And then, so content not only is a way to kind of get into that search engine, it's also a way to create content that then people can read. I know people think people don't read anymore, but people read a lot on the internet. And I mean, the best version of it is something where you have both video and written. So like I'll do things sometimes, or I'll do a podcast or some video, take the transcription. One of the things ChatGPT can do pretty well is take the transcription and write a summary of that. So then if someone doesn't have, maybe they're at work and they can't watch the video, they can read about it. It's it's just more accessible also for people that have like different abilities with reading, retention, and hearing and stuff like that. And there's the additional benefit of just having content that really makes you look like an expert. It shows your expertise in a space. Basically, it allows you to teach. It gives you a format to teach what you know to people that could be your customer. And I think that's it's definitely applicable when you're selling to businesses. So if you're an artist and you're trying to, let's say you're a painter and you're trying to sell to businesses to put your paintings up in their lobbies and buy your paintings to put them in their offices, which I think is a space that a lot of artists don't even realize is an opportunity, or like host galas and exhibitions. Writing content about like why a business would want to do that from your perspective can be a great way to potentially get people to come to you. But also when you're talking to somebody, you can easily just send them that article and be like, hey, I actually wrote this piece explaining this. And it makes you look really good when you can do that.
Yeah, no, that's a great example for somebody who's maybe an artist to be able to use a blog. And do you use blogs as kind of, I've heard of this idea of pillar content. I know Gary Vee talks a little bit about that, but do you kind of think about it like that with your blog content?
Yeah, I mean, for both the trying to create like comprehensive coverage on a certain topic, so that if someone wants to learn something, they can use you as the source that they learn it from. And then also for search engine optimization, having what's called topic clusters and topical authority. So authority on a topic according to the search engine. Having these pillar articles that are comprehensive, and then a bunch of smaller articles that like branch out and become very specific on subtopics in that that niche or specific topic that you're trying to cover, is kind of the modern strategy for SEO. It's no longer about just churning out a bunch of written content because everyone can do that. It's now about how do you show some topical authority, and the content hub or content pillar piece is kind of how you do that now. And that's actually what I'll show you is one of those that I've been working on.
Yeah, that is a strategy. I mean, there's so many different things you can do for marketing, and that's something I'm hoping we can do with this podcast series is potentially use the topic that I'm creating with you as a piece of pillar content and create maybe a blog and a series to go out on social media.
Yeah,
et cetera.
even beyond writing, just to like plug that there, it's like what's cool about the kind of pillar concept is that you have like a piece of content. I mean, let's say it's this video and this interview and then the module afterwards. It's like you have many different pieces of content, both video, audio, and written that can come out of that. And out of that written one, like there's all the sub articles that can come out of it. Out of the video, there's all the little clips that can come out of it. There's just so much that can come out of one, and figuring out what that like waterfall is that works for, where it's like your great video starting with and allowing yourself to say, oh, now how can I turn that into written? It makes that a lot easier. How can I turn this into a course? How can I turn this into clips that then can go on social media? How can I turn this into written LinkedIn posts or Twitter posts? There's like so many different pieces of content. The tricky thing is because I've been doing that type of marketing that's like what I was consulting YouTube channels for like at least since like 2016, is that you can get Gary Vaynerchuk has a whole team of people that allows him to do that like to a level that not realistic for most people. So I think I've gotten caught in that mistake before where I'm like, I have to like do this to the level of Gary Vaynerchuk, and the quality just suffers because I'm just trying to churn out so much content that it's not. I don't think you have to like focus too much on every little clip being perfect and everything, but there's definitely a degree of like if you're just one person or just a small team, just being realistic about where your strengths are. Like maybe you're really good at creating clips, but not great at writing. The great thing now, which is kind of emerging, is that there's AI tools that can help with all of those pieces and make you. I'm a one-person marketing team at my job, and I'm doing the work of like a whole team of like 15. I used to have a team of 10 people, and I'm doing all of the same work that we were doing. So
that's incredible. Yeah, especially with these tools. That's an exciting point, like how creators are going to be able to produce more content, be more effective with marketing because of this technology.
I think it democratizes those opportunities of how do you reach audience and stuff. And I think what will happen in the short term is that a lot of stuff will be created. And what, in my experience over 15 years of watching kind of the digital content market like evolve, is that there's always like volume people win early on, where it's like just how much can you pump out. Like with Google originally, it was just like if you could just pump out the most articles, you win. But then when there's just saturation of like, well, if everyone can create an article or anyone can create a YouTube video, then quality starts to become more important. And it's not quantity, it's quantity and quality that ends up winning.
Nice. No, yeah. I can see that, how the times change and what the consumer wants to see based on trends and what technology is empowering people to do.
As much as I'd hate to like, I don't love that everything's about competition. It's like, it really is. Like you're competing for people's attention. You're competing for people's dollars. Like there's so many people creating content and stuff out there. And I think we're in an abundant world where there's plenty of resources to go around. But at the end of the day, it's like you have to compete with the Deloitte and the Gary Vaynerchuks and the like giant, and then the Disneys, right, for attention. And it's like there's enough money. Disney makes plenty of money. You can compete and take some of that away, but you're going to have to compete with them to do that. And you're going to have to do something, add your own unique creativity and perspective to something that they can't do, to make it more interesting to people to grab their attention and to hold their attention and provide value to them.
Well, I think we're about to create an awesome little micro skill with you. Thank you so much for joining us again. I'm excited to finish this out with you. Is there anything that the listeners can do for you?
Sure. I think that the one of the things would be to just check out the content that I'm creating. If you're interested in events, if you host events, whether you're an artist or a musician or something, you host events, I create a bunch of content to be helpful to you, or if you know people that are doing that kind of thing. On the Vesta blog, which we probably can link somewhere, and I'm writing a newsletter about the trends in the industry that are relevant to people that are trying to promote events of that sort, business networking events, concerts, art shows, comedy shows, whatever. It's called the Promoter's Pulse, and I just started it, but I'm excited to have that. It's already got growing pretty quickly already. So yeah, if you want to check those things out, if those would be helpful for you, that would be great.
Thank you, Craig. Yes, we will. We will definitely go check those out. I think all of us are working on some event all the time. So
it's a great time to
thank
be an
you.
event organizer. There's just so much opportunity. People are really, I think this is just one quick lesson. The thing when all marketing is run by AI, like in-person events are going to be such a huge driver of marketing and representing people and like businesses and a differentiator. The only place where you can truly be entirely personable and like know that the person you're talking to and the thing that you're consuming is like, this is a person and isn't created by AI.
Right, even down to the avatars that are just coming out every week. There's new ways to produce realistic avatars. We won't know.
Yep.
Very
So unless you
quickly.
can stand in front of until the androids take over, then then even live events will be ruined. But
okay, well, there you have it, y'all. We have Craig Heron. I've been referring to you as Craig Inzana, but Craig Heron. We have a pay what you can micro skill course on our website, uninc.io. If you want to go through that course with Craig, he's going to be walking us through how to use ChatGPT to create content for our brands and our work. You can check it out on uninc.io. It's pay what you can. Thank you, everybody, for joining us. Please follow us if you're interested in more Uninc. We will see you soon.